Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. Netanyahu says the Israeli forces are operating inside Gaza city in response to Hamas's attacks, warns Hezbollah against escalating the conflict. G7 foreign ministers call for a temporary pause in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. Paris hosts a global summit to discuss rapid deterioration of poles and glaciers. And Glenn Maxwell hits a double century, takes Australia into the semi-finals of the Cricket World Cup. First up, the latest on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Wednesday is day 33 of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The next report tells you more about the Israeli military's retaliation against Hamas after the 7th October attacks, from ground operations to tracking concealed rocket launchers.
Israeli forces are currently engaged in a month-long offensive against Hamas. Prime Minister Netanyahu has clearly stated that the operations are taking place from within Gaza.
Gaza city is encircled. We are operating inside it. We are increasing pressure on Hamas every hour, every day. We have killed thousands of terrorists above ground and below ground.
Netanyahu also warned Hezbollah to rethink before choosing sides with Hamas.
If Hezbollah chooses to join the war, it'd be making a big mistake. No ceasefire without the release of our hostages.
Hamas terrorists launched anti-tank missiles at IDF troops from several locations. In response, IDF troops killed several terrorists and found concealed rocket launchers and numerous weapons inside a school in the northern region of the conflict. World leaders have also called for hostage release. US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu held a discussion on potential pauses in fighting for humanitarian reasons. Israel has agreed to it in a war of self-defense. World Health Organization reiterated an urgent need for humanitarian pause.
Access is necessary, and that is to be done through air, not through air, but through road. This way we can bring in the supplies. We have the supplies. The whole UN has the supplies outside of Gaza at the south and the Rafah crossing.
The number of evacuees leaving Gaza via Rafah border also spiked. At least 500 people crossed Rafah on Tuesday after evacuations were suspended on Saturday and Sunday.
It's almost been a month since the Hamas held hostages from Israel that resulted in the Israel-Gaza conflict. Amid the negotiations, Hamas has released 5 hostages and efforts are being made to bring back the remaining hostages. The family members of the hostages are protesting, demanding the release of their loved ones. DD India's Amritpal Singh had a conversation with the friends of hostages, and he reports from Hakiria in Tel Aviv.
It's been more than a month since the horrendous attacks by Hamas took place on Israel. Hamas that day not only killed people, but took 242 of them hostages, many of them elderly, small children, people of all ages. even Israeli soldiers, and also many of them, more than half of them, according to the IDF estimates, foreign nationals. While efforts are on to get the hostages released, there are Qatar-based mediated negotiations happening, but without much success. Only 5 hostages have been released so far.
I'm scared because what we have in the school and in our home and with the people that we grew up with, it's not gonna be the same like it used to.
We are here to support the families, and we are here to tell people the stories of these people. We used to study with, we used to play with when we were kids. Her school kids from the class are now kidnapped in Gaza Strip and Gaza.
People are getting restive. There were protests outside Benjamin Netanyahu's homes, and their stories are really heart-wrenching. While they ask them to put the pressure on their government to get their loved ones back. Amrit Pal Singh for DD India in Hakiria, Tel Aviv.
30 teddy bears were displayed in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, to symbolize the underage hostages taken by the Hamas. The protest was a part of an international campaign called #KidsNapped, #BringThemBackHome, which started on Monday in the city. Meanwhile, the Jewish community in Italy's capital, Rome, held a silent sit-in in front of the city's town hall with dozens of empty strollers to call for the release of the Israeli children abducted by the Hamas. The demonstrators gathered under the rain on the Capitoline Hill behind empty strollers with photographs of abducted children and stuffed toys in a call for their immediate return. Japan's Foreign Minister Kamikawa Yoko and her German counterpart Annalena Baerbock held bilateral talks on the sidelines of the Group of 7 foreign ministers meeting in Tokyo on Wednesday. The G7 nations, Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the US, as well as the European Union, took part in the talks. Issues such as the Ukraine-Russia conflict and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict were discussed. The G7 group has announced that its support for Ukraine will not be affected by the intensifying West Asia conflict, as the group's foreign ministers held virtual talks with Kyiv during a meeting in Tokyo on Wednesday. The G7 countries have recognized that Russia is settling into its war in Ukraine for the longer term and that this requires enduring military and economic support for Kyiv. The group has been at the forefront of sanctions on Russia since Moscow invaded Ukraine in February 2022.
It will send a clear message to the international community that we as the G7 stand with Ukraine, even while the international attention tends to be on the Middle East.
Now, the G7 has wrapped up 2 days of talks with a focus on reaffirming support for Ukraine, calls for dialogue with China, and promises of humanitarian aid for Gaza. In other news, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk is visiting West Asia. The UN official will visit the Rafah border crossing point between Gaza and Egypt. Earlier, during a Cairo visit, Turk said that a solution to end the Gaza conflict is important. Turk is in the region to engage with the government officials, civil society, survivors and UN colleagues on the human rights situation in the region. He will be traveling to Jordan's capital, Amman, on Thursday.
Anniversary of this incredible escalation of violence that we have seen. I'm, of course, from a human rights perspective, extremely worried about the situation, about what is happening, and it is really important that a solution is found to end the violence and to get out of this horrible, horrible humanitarian and human rights situation for what's happening in Gaza.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Paris hosts a global summit to refocus attention on the melting glaciers. No respite from pollution as the air quality in India's capital, New Delhi, remains in the severe category. And Japan plans to issue its first climate transition bond from next year.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In a major boost to global collaboration in education, 2 leading Australian universities have announced that they will be opening their campuses in Gift City in India's western state of Gujarat.
Located on the banks of Sabarmati River in western India, the Gift City or Gujarat International Finance Tech City is emerging as finance and technology hub of national and global importance. In the latest development, the city created history after 2 prestigious Australian universities, Deakin and Wollongong, announced that they will be opening their campuses in Gift City. The announcement was made in the presence of Indian Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan and his Australian counterpart Jason Clare in Gift City.
Our 21st century is going to be the knowledge-based society. It should be a knowledge-based economy. So this kind of bridge between both the countries, between both the democracies, will certainly create a new ecosystem of knowledge and service-based economy.
This is a historic day. These are the first 2 international universities to be given approval to establish a campus in India, Wollongong University and Deakin University, and I hope that they are the first of a number. But the truth is that our relationship is long and strong. Australian universities and Indian universities have been working together for many decades.
During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Gift City in 2022, the city's regulatory body, International Financial Services Authority, signed memorandums with regulatory authorities of Singapore, Luxembourg, Qatar and Sweden. The achievements have enhanced the city's standing. Earlier this year, Google announced that it plans to open a global fintech operations hub in Gift City. The place is already home to over 20 major international banks, including Barclays and HSBC.
Ahead of the festival of Diwali, there is no respite for residents in the Indian capital, New Delhi. The air quality in New Delhi continued to remain in the severe category on Wednesday, as per the country's Central Pollution Control Board. The Delhi government has decided to implement the odd-even road rationing scheme to control vehicular movement on the roads. In the wake of the worsening air quality in the national capital region, India's top court on Tuesday directed the state governments of Punjab, Rajasthan and Haryana to take immediate steps to stop stubble burning by farmers, which the court said was one of the major contributors of air pollution. My colleague Siddharth Bharadwaj joins us from New Delhi. Siddharth, if you are with us, and I can see that you are wearing a face mask, how's the air quality in the city? How are people coping with it, and what's being done to make it better?
Well, good afternoon, Ramesh, and honestly speaking, it's not good out here because the AQI levels are so high that people are having difficulty breathing. And I'm here standing in the central Delhi right now, and I can feel it. If I remove my mask, I am having difficulty breathing. So this is the impact of the rising AQI here in the national capital. Everyone who's out there on the streets, majority of them are wearing masks because without it, they cannot function. And AQI levels in some areas in the national capital have been observed above 400, 500, and in fact 600. So you can even imagine the amount of quality which the national capital is having. The air quality is actually deteriorating, and people are having difficulty in breathing. And according to the experts, until and unless you have something, if you have any emergency, only in that condition you should be stepping out of your houses. Otherwise, stay in to stay safe. This is what experts have been saying. And as you can see, I request my camera person to pan here. You can see the building. It's afternoon here, and the building is barely visible because it is engulfed in the toxic smog. And such is the impact of the rising AQI levels in national capital. This is a clear-cut warning, Ramesh, that we have to be very cautious about what we are doing, and we have to take proper measures. Otherwise, the situation could be worse. This is a clear-cut warning. And as the saying goes, that we are not using the resources we have, we are borrowing it from our future. So we have to keep these things in consideration and act accordingly. This is what the situation says right now.
Indeed, and the country will celebrate the festival of Diwali on Sunday. Now, typically, the festivities include burning of firecrackers. Any restrictions or do's and don'ts?
Well, definitely, Ramesh, this time around, the Diwali is going to be very, very special because this time around, the country is aware. The country, it will show, the national capital specifically will show that they will celebrate Diwali without burning firecrackers because we all know that Diwali is an auspicious festival of lights. It's a festival of welcoming a good and new weather. It's a festival of adorning new clothes, but certainly not the weather, not a festival to add more to the already so much of pollution by burning firecrackers. So this time around, the Diwali is going to be very, very special for the people of Delhi because they'll show, and not just for the people of Delhi, for the entire country for that matter, Ramesh, they'll show this time that they are doing something to prevent the environment. They are contributing in something good, and they are not actually snatching the resources from the future, and they are contributing, to prevent the society, to prevent the environment. So this time, the nation will certainly show that they are celebrating Diwali without bursting the firecrackers, because firecrackers will only add to the air pollution, which is hampering so many lives, especially the senior citizens' lives and children's lives as well. They all are suffering because of the air pollution. So that's how the people will behave. They are expected to behave like this. They will not use firecrackers on this Diwali, and they'll celebrate the Diwali as it is meant to be.
Siddharth, as they say, we can have a plan A and plan B, but there is no planet B. There's only one Earth, so we have to take care of it. We leave it at that. Siddharth, thank you. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. India's Home and Cooperation Minister Amit Shah addressed a national symposium on promotion of organic produce in New Delhi on Wednesday. The minister's speech highlighted the significance of organic farming and healthy living as part of a broader commitment to environmental sustainability. The Jammu and Kashmir Police's Special Investigation Agency on Wednesday raided multiple locations in the Union Territory. The raids conducted in a terror funding case was carried out in pursuance of search warrants issued by a special court. India's National Investigation Agency on Wednesday carried out raids across 8 states and 2 union territories in connection with certain human trafficking cases. Further details were awaited. India on Tuesday successfully test-fired a short-range ballistic missile named Pralay off the coast of the state of Odisha. The missile has been developed by the Defence Research and Development Organization for deployment along the line of actual control and the line of control. Now, world leaders and heads of international organizations will gather in the French capital this week for the 6th edition of the Paris Peace Forum. It comes against a challenging backdrop of geopolitical tensions, which makes collective action all the more urgent. In the run-up to the main dialogue, which begins on Friday, the first World Summit on Glaciers and Poles is being held on Wednesday. Rebecca Bundon reports from Paris.
The theme for this year's Paris Peace Forum is seeking common ground in a world of rivalry. The aim of the annual event is to discuss global challenges, drive coordination and political momentum, and ultimately promote good governance. With the forum taking place against the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas conflict and Russia's war in Ukraine, talks about peace and security seem all the more relevant. Experts say the event is an important opportunity for dialogue on urgent issues, but that expectations need to be managed in terms of what the Paris Peace Forum can achieve.
I don't think that it's going to achieve a huge political breakthrough on any of the crises that we are seeing today, but it is certainly a valuable forum, particularly for the connections between civil society and governments, as well as both civil society and governments and the private sector.
The list of speakers at the Peace Forum includes presidents and prime ministers, Nobel laureates and representatives from non-governmental organisations. French President Emmanuel Macron is part of the event, along with the head of the World Bank, Ajay Banga. Climate change is one of the global challenges that will come into sharp focus. Leading up to the main event, the Paris Peace Forum is hosting the One Planet Polar Summit, which it's billing as the first international summit dedicated to poles and glaciers. Researchers and scientists from over 40 countries will meet in Paris to share their findings, as they warn of an urgent need to act to protect these fragile environments. The North and South Poles are central to the planet's climate regulation, and the state of the world's glaciers has an effect on communities and sea levels. Other topics that will be discussed at the Paris Peace Forum include cybersecurity and risks that come with the rise of artificial intelligence. The forum comes as challenges only seem to be mounting globally. Rebecca Bundon in Paris, reporting for DD India.
And Rebecca Bundon joins us from Paris. Rebecca, who all are taking part in the meeting called by French President Emmanuel Macron? And here I am referring particularly to the Paris Summit on Poles and Glaciers. I'm afraid we try to fix that link with Rebecca in just a bit, but we are discussing about the Paris Peace Forum. We'll try to get back to her if we can later on the broadcast. But moving on for now, Colombia's Environment Minister Susana Mohammed said that deforestation in the country's Amazon is forecast to have fallen 70% in the first 9 months of this year from 1 year ago. The minister said that deforestation across the country fell 29.1% in 2022 from the previous year, reversing growth trends. She said that the environmental policies, including paying locals to care for forests and targeting criminals financing environmental crimes such as illegal logging, are paying a dividend. But drier weather brought by the El Niño phenomenon could cause a spike in the deforestation by the end of the year. A majority of Colombia's deforestation takes place in the Amazon. According to estimates, 69 square miles were deforested in Colombia's Amazon between January and September.
Another effect of an exceptionally severe occurring this year in the Amazon conditions in the Pacific, characterized by waters say that's not the whole. Other consequences, the widespread death of high temperature of the water. High temperature of the water.
Traditional horseback fishers in Belgium have noticed changes in the North Sea because of climate change. The shift in climate has disrupted fishing seasons and may lead to extinction of certain species. Take a look.
Traditional horseback fishers on Belgium's far western coast are witnessing the impact of climate change on the North Sea's ecosystem. With reduced shrimp catches and an influx of weaver fish and squid, an ecosystem shift is evident.
We have less shrimp catch than we used to, but we also have more weavers and animal species that you didn't see here before, which come from the Atlantic as the water warms up.
The rise in sea temperatures has disrupted the fishing community's traditional seasons, attributing it to climate change.
The best period to fish for shrimps used to be from September until December, when it starts to freeze. What we see now is that we get the best catches later in the season. I guess that there is a link with the climate change, because the water and the temperatures we live in have warmed up.
The North Sea has experienced a notable 0.3 degrees Celsius temperature increase every decade since 1991. Scientists warn that this warming has caused some species such as weavers and squid to increase in abundance, while others like North cod have declined.
For me, this is quite alarming, because at this rate, we see that a lot of species cannot cope and either migrate or go extinct. And if species go extinct, our food web will be impacted, which has consequences for us.
Concerns arise about the ecosystem's fragility and potential species extinction due to these changes. This situation could significantly impact the region's food web.
Well, let me take you back to Paris, where my colleague Rebecca Bundon is standing by. Rebecca, if you are with us and can hear me, who all are taking part in the meeting called by French President Emmanuel Macron? And here I am referring particularly to the Paris summit on poles and glaciers.
Yes, and this is being described as the first global summit on poles and glaciers. And it's bringing together scientists, researchers, political leaders, NGOs to really discuss this critical topic as we actually see these findings coming through on the impact on polar and glacier regions of global warming. And this is something that can have an effect on populations, it can have an impact on sea levels, which we're seeing rising, and the environment in general. So it really comes at a critical time. Now, what this is expected to result in is ultimately at the end of the three-day summit, when we'll see President Emmanuel Macron actually closing the Poles and Glacier Summit, he will actually, we should actually see this agreement coming through, known as the Paris Appeal on Poles and Glaciers. And that will involve participants actually signing this declaration, and it's hoped that that can achieve more research, coordination, and a call for action as well to protect these fragile environments.
Also, Rebecca, the city will host the 6th edition of the Forum for Peace as well. What's on its agenda, and what might Macron be hoping to achieve by way of outcomes?
Yes, and this comes at a time when we're seeing rising US-China tensions and the geopolitical situation with, for example, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and then now Hamas and Israel, that conflict as well. So really a lot of turbulence globally. So it becomes all the more important in some ways because this is a forum that's aimed at discussing peace and security. Also on the agenda, climate change, again, that's a key topic. And interestingly too, we're seeing cybersecurity playing an increasingly role, being a hot topic of discussion, particularly the risks that come with the rising use of technology, artificial intelligence, for example, and also ways of addressing important issues such as inequality globally. So these are all things that will be discussed. However, analysts have highlighted that this is really a platform for discussion. It's a forum which can hopefully promote coordination between civil society, political leaders, and the business world as well. But it's actually limited in terms of what it can achieve directly.
Rebecca, thank you for now. Appreciate it. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India and the US to hold the annual defense and foreign ministers' talks in New Delhi this week. Opposition parties in Bangladesh launch a new 48-hour road, rail and waterway blockade across the country. And 5 Republican candidates running for US president to face each other in the party's 3rd televised debate.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. Netanyahu says the Israeli forces are operating inside Gaza City in response to the Hamas attacks, warns the Hezbollah against escalating the conflict. G7 foreign ministers called for a temporary pause in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. And Paris hosts a global summit to discuss rapid deterioration of poles and glaciers. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar will host the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin for the 5th India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi on 10th November. Now, this dialogue will facilitate a high-level review of progress in various aspects of defense and security cooperation, technology partnerships, and people-to-people connections. During the discussions, the ministers will work on advancing the future roadmap for the India-US partnership as outlined by Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and US President Joe Biden in their talks earlier this year. The meeting will also address regional matters, emphasize shared priorities for expanding collaboration in multilateral fora and within frameworks such as the Quad. The Indian ministers will hold separate meetings with their US counterparts, underscoring the continuity of the ministerial dialogue and reaffirming the India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership. India's Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar and his Malaysian counterpart Zamri Abdul Qadir co-chair the 6th India-Malaysia Joint Commission meeting in New Delhi on Tuesday. The Joint Commission meeting reviewed the progress on security, trade and finance sectors as well as maritime cooperation. Both sides discussed other regional and multilateral issues as well. In a social media post, Minister Jaishankar said that the 6th Joint Commission meeting will take forward India and Malaysia's enhanced strategic partnership.
I shall now request the Honourable Ministers to kindly exchange this document.
The opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party and its allies enforce another round of 48-hour road, rail and waterway blockade across Bangladesh from Wednesday. The blockade is to mount pressure on the government to step down and hold the next election under a non-partisan administration. The blockade started at 6 a.m. local time and will end at 6 a.m. on Friday. The fresh agitation was announced on the last day of the opposition's 48-hour nationwide blockade, which had been marked by widespread incidents of violence, including clashes with the police and torching and vandalizing of vehicles. And Naval Singh Parmar joins us from Dhaka. What more can you tell us about this new 48-hour road, rail and waterway blockade?
Yes, this is the third blockade declared by the opposition, mainly BNP and the Jamaat-e-Islami and other allies. And as their whole demand is to have a resignation of Sheikh Hasina government and election, upcoming national election on a multi-party or the neutral government. And for that they are this is the third blockade. Earlier they declared two blockade of 3 days and another one was 2 days. But today there is a new development in this situation is that the RMG worker, ready-made garment worker who were agitating against the industry for the higher wages. Yesterday there were a declaration from the wage board and they increased wages up to 52%. But still they are not satisfied, as earlier wages were 8,000 rupees. Now it is around 12,500 rupees for a month. But the workers are not satisfied with the declaration from the wage board. So their union leaders and the workers are on road now. So 48 platoons of BGB, Bangladesh Border Guard, Bangladesh, deployed to provide security to the garment industry in Dhaka and nearby area. And meanwhile, one woman worker killed in a police place during the agitation. So this political as well as the labor unrest are now mixing up with each other.
And just for the benefit of viewers tuning in from around the world, Naval, when is Bangladesh going to the polls? And will the election campaign get shriller as the election date approaches?
Yes, tentative date, schedule is not announced yet,
okay.
But it should be in between 1st January to 15th January. Then only, according to their constitutional requirement, it should be between 1st to 15th January. So any time election schedule may declare, and Election Commission is also in a mood that we are not responsible to create a conducive environment. It depends on political party. We will hold election as per the schedule. So it is very likely that Election Commission may hold a press conference or address to nation in next week or this weekend.
All right, we leave it at that. Naval Singh Parmar in Dhaka. Thank you for now. Appreciate it. In other news, after attending the G7 meeting in Tokyo and other meetings in West Asia, U.S. Foreign Minister Antony Blinken is now visiting South Korea amid concerns over the deepening military relationship between Russia and North Korea. It's his first visit to South Korea since Yoon Suk-yeol became the country's president last year. Andrew Wood reports from Hong Kong.
Have already condemned North Korea for supplying arms and ammunition to Russia for use in Ukraine. South Korea itself is actually quite a big producer and exporter of armaments. So far, Seoul says that it doesn't want to supply arms to countries that are at war. So this might be an area where Mr. Blinken might want to try to change the Seoul's president's, the South Korean's president's mind. Because after all, more armaments for Ukraine would probably help the country to fight back against Russia. There's also the perennial issue of North Korea. Back in August, Mr. Blinken said that if Beijing did not help to try to denuclearize North Korea, then America would have to strengthen its alliance with Japan and South Korea. And it certainly seems to be doing that. It's done that over the past month or so. There's much more cooperation between these two US allies in, well, virtually in sharing information about North Korea and also about the possible threats from China as well. So this also might be some maneuvering as well before the big meeting next week that's expected between President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden in San Francisco on the sidelines of the APEC Forum for Pacific Rim countries in San Francisco. In Hong Kong, I'm Andrew Wood, reporting for DD India.
And staying in the region, Japan plans to issue its first climate transition bond with fixed coupon rates from February next year. According to an advisory of the Ministry of Finance, the government will offer the climate transition bonds in 2, 5, 10 and 20-year tenures with a fixed coupon rate. A final announcement on the details will be made in early December. Transition bonds help heavy industries to move towards net zero emissions. The government of Japan plans to issue transition bonds worth $133 billion over a period of 10 years. The India-based S4S Technologies has been awarded the prestigious Earthshot Prize for its solar-powered food dryer that's helping rural farmers combat food waste and increase their income. The next report gets you more.
S4S Technologies, a company based in India, has developed a solar-powered food dryer that helps rural farmers prevent food waste and increase their income. Prince William hosted the Earthshot Prize award ceremony in Singapore, where S4S Technologies was one of the 5 winners. The company aims to empower female farmers by providing them with an assured additional income and preventing food wastage.
S4S is creating impact in 3 ways. First is that we are preventing the food from getting wasted. Second, this is done using the power of sun, using a clean tech technology. Third is that we are empowering rural female farmers, giving them an assured additional income and also making them better decision makers in their families as well as the communities.
The lack of storage facilities in India has led to significant food waste, and S4S Technologies is tackling this issue by buying back dehydrated produce from the farmers.
So these are the smaller bits of ginger that used to be wasted, but now we cut it up and dry it with the solar drying machine. When it's dry, we send it to S4S, which has given us the chance to sell more produce and earn more money. It's changed our lives. I use the money to pay for school for my children as well as running the house.
The company is now working with 3,000 smallholder farmers and selling their produce to major food producers like Sodexo, Nestle and Unilever, among others. This innovative solution exemplifies the potential for low-tech, sustainable interventions to address pressing global challenges.
5 Republican presidential candidates will face each other on Wednesday in the party's third primary debate. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie and Tim Scott have all qualified to appear, but the current frontrunner in the race, Donald Trump, has once again chosen not to take part. DD India's Kate Fisher reports from Washington, D.C.
2 of the 5 candidates who've made it to the debate stage in Miami are Indian American. But former US Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy are still lower in the polls compared with frontrunner Donald Trump, and still behind his closest competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. With GOP primary voting starting in January, so only a couple of months away, Trump's rivals are hanging on to viability by... But the stakes at Wednesday's debate are particularly high for Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, who are in a cage match for second place behind Trump in Iowa, which is the first state to vote. Haley has enjoyed a significant, though not huge, burst of support in recent polling, in part thanks to previous debate performances. But another Indian American and her rival, Vivek Ramaswamy, is close behind her. His performance in the first debate saw him increase in the polls. DeSantis has struggled to maintain his early positioning as the major Republican alternative to Donald Trump, and he'll be trying to reignite that initial excitement. But the former president, who remains the frontrunner in the Republican primary, is skipping the debate, which is taking place less than 110 kilometers from his residence at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Instead, he'll headline a rally in South Florida as counter-programming. He also missed the first 2 debates. Kate Fisher in Washington reporting for DD India.
And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa resigned on Tuesday, hours after prosecutors detained his chief of staff in a probe into alleged corruption in his government's handling of lithium mining and hydrogen projects. He announced his decision in a televised statement after meeting President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. A second earthquake measuring 7 struck the Banda Sea in Indonesia minutes after the first quake of 6.9 magnitude hit the region. The quake was 370 kilometers southeast of Ambon and with an estimated depth of 146 kilometers, according to the European Mediterranean Seismological Center. So far, there was no tsunami threat from the earthquake. Millions of Australians were left without internet connection after the country's second largest telecommunication provider suffered a nationwide outage. The outage crippled payment systems and online operations. Hospitals and emergency services across the country were also hit by the outage. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Glenn Maxwell puts up a big show in Australia's win against Afghanistan in a Cricket World Cup match. The Sway martial art makes its debut at India's National Games. And crowds throng the India stall at Sharjah International Book Fair.
Turning crisis into opportunity. Transforming ideas into action. Stories of real change. Tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. And now to all the news from the world of sport with Deepika. Deepika, over to you.
Thanks and good afternoon, Ramesh. Let's quickly bring our viewers all the latest news and updates that we are tracking from the ongoing ICC Men's Cricket World Cup. Well, the 2019 champions England are currently facing the Netherlands in the World Cup in Pune. England captain Jos Buttler won the toss and elected to bat first at the MCA Stadium. Harry Brook and Gut Atkinson replaced Liam Livingstone and Mark Wood. England have cut a sorry figure, managing just one victory from 7 matches to slip to the bottom of the 10-team table, while the Netherlands are on the 9th position with 2 victories and 4 points in hand. England suffered 33-run loss to arch rivals Australia on Saturday. Now it remains to be seen if England would be able to secure a victory today. Till the last reports came in, England were at 76 for a loss of 1 wicket. Glenn Maxwell is called the big show of cricket for this very reason. He led the World Cup with a brilliant unbeaten double hundred to help the Aussies snatch victory from the jaws of defeat against Team Afghanistan. One-legged Glenn Maxwell puts up big show or the Mad Max miracle to take Australia to the World Cup semi-finals.
Glenn Maxwell stupefied the cricketing world with his madness on Tuesday night at the Wankhede. Chasing the Afghans' target of 292 was not an easy task. However, after slumping to 91 for 7, it looked mission impossible. However, Big Show of Cricket, or Mad Max as he is called, decided to come to the party to do something different. The duo of Glenn Maxwell and Pat Cummins started cautiously. But was there any hope, was the big question. At a stage when even the most optimistic of Australian supporters would have accepted defeat, Maxwell defied Afghanistan, probability, mathematics and beyond. With some slice of luck, he launched into an over-eager Afghan attack. Maxwell went about his task batting on one leg after battling pain and exhaustion. He didn't celebrate his 100 but had his arms raised once the win was achieved, as he could smile through pain. Batting with a strike rate of 157, Maxwell took 128 deliveries to reach his double 100. He slammed 21 fours and 10 sixes to reach his double 100 and became the first player to score 200 while chasing in ODIs. Among the multiple records that he has shattered, Maxwell has become the first Australian to score a double 100 in a cricketing World Cup. History will judge if the knock at Wankhede in terms of match situation could be termed the greatest in one-day cricket. Who knows, it could act as the perfect fuel for Australia to win their 6th World Cup. Anil Thomas for DD India.
Moving on to national games now, Square Martial Arts has been included in the medal category for the very first time at the ongoing 37th edition of National Games. Square Martial Arts originated in Kashmir. Square means speed in Pashtun. DD India Suchitra Bharadwaj spoke to the director of competition, Mir Nazir Ahmed, regarding the sport and his next target. Let's take a listen.
How do you feel? First time in the medal category and a game that is originated in our own nation.
Yeah, we are highly feel the proud moments when this martial art has been included in the medal event in 37 national games. We are waiting since long, from 2016 we are waiting that this sports will be included. Finally, the Goa government has taken the step and come forward. We are highly thankful to the Chief Minister of the Goa and the Sports Minister of Goa.
Do you think that including it in the medal category in the national games will increase its popularity? And it has to increase because this is from our own country.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely it will be increase the standard of the game, it will be increase the popularity of the game. In coming days you will see the more tough competitions and polished players will come out who will give the medals for our nation.
this is a sport that is originated in J&K. So it's all the more important for the J&K youth to be connected with square martial arts.
Yeah, it is the foremost duty of the parents, also of the society, to involve their wards, involve their children in the sports so that they will remain away from the drugs and other bad habits. If we will adopt our own martial art, our own culture, that will be better than adopt the other countries' martial art.
What is your next target you want to achieve for square martial arts?
Now our next is the inclusion this in Asian Games, and we have already approached the OCA, Olympic Council of Asia, and we are expecting that in next coming days we will get a good news.
So square martial art is now in the medal category in the national games, and people related to this sport now want to see this go at Asian level. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India from Goa.
So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Rami.
Thank you, Deepika. The 42nd edition of Sharjah International Book Fair is underway, delivering an extraordinary celebration of literature, culture and global influences. Organized by the Sharjah Book Authority, the event is taking place from the 1st to the 12th of November at the Sharjah Expo Center. Under the theme, We Speak Books, the fair is bringing together an illustrious lineup of renowned authors, film celebrities, thought leaders and global influencers, including Nobel Prize laureates and top-selling authors from around the world. The 12-day agenda is a comprehensive, cultural, creative and entertaining extravaganza. The current edition at the fair features an impressive participation of 2,033 publishers representing 109 countries. South Korea is taking center stage as the guest of honor at the fair this year. A highlight of the event is the participation of 600 authors who are present to sign their latest works.
This time we are here in Sharjah continuously, and we are in the hall number 7 where all other Indian publishers are also there. Their books are also displayed, and we are getting very good support from the Ministry of Education whenever we participate in any of the foreign book fairs, international book fairs. Here also I came to know that there are around 2,000 publishers in Sharjah International Book Fair, getting very good response. The people are coming over here in NBT stall and they are showing a keen interest in books on Tagore, books on Gandhi, books on our Prime Minister, of course.
And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.